Meow! It's Huples cat and Gracie cat. This is a copy of Popular Mechanics magazine. Definitely not as cute as Gracie, but probably a lot cheaper. Popular Mechanics started in 1904, which makes it only slightly older than me. It's regularly over the years did survival features as well as popularising do-it-yourself mechanics. September the 8th, 2025 saw the third reprinting of Popular Mechanics' Ultimate Survival Guide. 19 Ways Not to Die. Outsmart whatever disaster comes your way. And for only $16.99 Canadian plus tax, I bought mine before the tariffs. So the question is 98 pages enough to turn me into a fully functional prepper? We shall see. So come along and let's see what Popular Mechanics actually offers us. It will help us both look at stuff like Popular Mechanics and online videos and try to make more coherent decisions about whether they're actually a waste of money and time. Oh yeah, and I'm in Canada, which is an absolutely wonderful country. And in Canada, if you want to, you can join the local library, of which we have many, and you can actually read this for free. Now, I was a bit unhappy to find that there is no text at all, absolutely none at all, until page 9, thus giving me less than 90 pages to actually become a complete prepper. Now, they start off by listing not 1 or 2 or 3, but actually 8 natural type disasters that you might well face and you need to be ready for. Now, you probably noticed wildfire if you were watching the video, but I will say there's 7 others. I'd like you to spend a few seconds now actually thinking about what they might be.
The Yankee lose.
The what is depends on where you live. This magazine is featuring stuff affecting everybody in the United States of America, so it's going to very heavily focus on the United States of America, forgetting about Canada, of course. So now we're thinking about what 8 disasters have happened in my local area before and can easily happen again. Have a real serious think. Of the 8, I immediately noticed there's 2 not mentioned. Heat waves, they kill, and in the tens of thousands if they're bad. And ice storms, they also kill, usually by automobile accidents and sometimes by exposure. I'm not sure why they're not mentioned. So this video is going to go through the 8 and talk about them. First up, we'll talk about wildfires. Then we'll talk about house fires, blizzards, blackouts, tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, and hurricanes. There are some gems in this magazine, very few of them, and I'll be mentioning them, so you're actually going to get something out of this video that's going to be positive. But overall, I wasn't that impressed. You can see where some online preppers get their ideas from.
The Monowalker, on the other hand, is a German-engineered hiking trailer built for serious expeditions. I've hauled it up some of the steepest mountain peaks in Canada.
They helpfully start out by telling you don't confuse a house fire with a wildfire. Hopefully you would have one or the other, not both, but actually you might actually be faced with both. Now, opening the damper of the fireplace sounded kind of interesting to me. I wasn't sure about this at all. If there's noxious gas and stuff in the house, is the house not already on fire? And do you really want to have a fire being able to ventilate out of the roof, given that heat rises? I wasn't sure about that one, I probably won't be doing it. Now, leaving the lights on to help firefighters seems a decent tip, but I always thought you had to turn the electricity off. Now, closing windows is pretty obvious, but, you know, I guess you have to mention it. What they don't mention is the fact your house should have a metal roof. You should have large clean areas around the property, and tree maintenance should be done yearly. But what to do is also very minimal here. An evacuation plan using multiple routes is essential, but so is actually trying them out by car, and the gas tank needs to be full. Evacuate before you're ordered to do so if you can. Wildfire gets a D grade. Now, house fires, can they do better? Now, they say that 50% of 400,000 house fires in the United States start between 11 o'clock at night and 7 in the morning. But dinner time between 5 and 8 is the peak time. They state that open stairwells are called chimneys by fire departments. This is in fact true. So this is why they recommend having at least 2 exits from all rooms. Have a meeting point outside that everybody goes to. Practice this 2 times a year in daylight and at night. They don't tell you to practice, but I really strongly suggest you do. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and it's well worth it if there's actually a house fire. What they don't mention is having 1 to 2 working smoke alarms on all levels, escape ladders and fire extinguishers on all levels. This is a bit of a cash investment, but not a huge amount, and it's well worth it. It's also well worth making sure that once or twice a year you go through everybody in the house and make sure they know how to operate fire extinguishers. They do say to use a fire extinguisher, but use it from 6 foot or more away to avoid spreading the fire. This is absolutely true. You do remember the Red Cross rule that if your clothes catch on fire, stop moving, drop to the ground and begin to roll back and forth and smother the flames. But make sure you're out of the fire danger area before you stop and drop. House fires get in a C-. Number 3 is blizzards. They state that 70% of the deaths here are caused by our road accidents, so don't drive. I think this is a really good idea. Actually, for any bad road conditions, you shouldn't be driving. They suggest a generator for power house. Yes, but you have to store fuel and you have to ventilate it and all that stuff, which is totally not mentioned. For about the same price as a cheap gas generator, which probably won't work year after year, what you can get yourself is a hunter's stove and some flashing, and actually set up a stove in the house if you have to. Now, what I'd really recommend if you live in a winter area is to have a working wood stove, not a pellet one. In my area of Canada, we had no power at all for 14 days last winter. Now, we have a solar off-grid system, so it really didn't bother us that much at all because it was quite sunny. But decent clothing and camping gear for winter is a great idea. I did like turning water off as it enters the house and draining the system. This will take planning and time. A wood stove avoids this, providing we're here to keep it working. They do suggest sleeping in a tent in one room. This is a great idea, but use a large mattress under the tent and hang linen and plastic all over doors and windows. Try not to drive on unploughed roads, no matter what, unless you actually normally do so. Now, the obsession Americans have with cars is apparent here. It's good to run the engine every 10 minutes for an hour. This will warm the car. But you should have a car emergency kit that should have long-lasting candles and make sure the car remains visible. You can suffocate in a snow-covered car. Blizzard, I'm going to give it an E. Number 4 is blackout. They claim that Hurricane Irma caused 100 days blackout in Puerto Rico. Is this true, Louis? I thought it was longer in some areas. So they recommend having a flashlight and batteries. Okay, but have a solar flashlight and rechargeable batteries and the means to recharge them, and have more than one flashlight. It also fails to mention candles, which cause house fires in almost every major blackout, or indoor barbecues to cook and heat, which kill in almost every major blackout. The idea is to survive here. Tell people not to do daft things. The what to do section is pretty good. Charge your phone in the car, but not in the garage. Get something like this. This is a higher end one, but they're easily available, especially for camping. Quite light, easily stored, and actually maintain a large charge. Get one that actually has a battery on it, not just a panel. You can also get charging devices to help you out in a power outage. Every 6 months or so I go through mine and recharge them. You can actually get fairly big battery powered packs as well for the house. You don't necessarily need to get huge ones, but you should have something as a reserve, but you need to be able to top it up if the sun's shining. In a prolonged blackout, getting gasoline or diesel or even propane to run the generator is going to get harder and harder, and is going to be very expensive. One blackout of a week or more, and you would have been far better off investing in solar backup stuff that you can also use for camping. Now, one of the things is they're trying to prove cell towers so they can actually keep going for 24 to 72 hours, which is a good idea, I guess, but at some point in a prolonged blackout, most cell towers in your area are going to stop functioning. That means all phones in your area, for most people, will stop functioning. Again, you might want to contact your cell phone provider and see if you can add satellite to it. You can also get something like this. For those of you who don't know what this is called a radio, R-A-D-I-O. And if you turn it on, you can actually listen to, mine's always tuned to CBC Radio 1. In my area, it's going to give me reasonable updated information. It has a solar charging area, which takes forever but works. It's there as an adjunct. It has one of these handles. Now, you'll see these handles on a lot of gear. If you use them, don't give them to a very young kid or somebody who's an idiot. It needs to be done very slowly and carefully, and when you finish with it, you need to very slowly and carefully stow it. They break very easily, and once they break, you're having to use pliers to do it. You don't want that. This one also recharges by the mains. You can also get them with a battery backup, but I find battery backups for this kind of thing isn't a great idea, mostly because you forget about them and the batteries ooze and destroy the equipment. I like the idea about unplugging everything except for one light, so you know when the power comes back on, but you won't overload the system. Now, they do tell you to send short text messages if the systems aren't working very well. What they don't tell you is that if you send a text message and it doesn't go through, it'll keep trying to send it, and this will absolutely wreck your battery life. So in an emergency, get used to turning your phone off. As you can see here, all of this stuff is very long on pictures, very short on text. Like I said, very much like a lot of online prepper videos. The tip is to keep all of your refrigerators and freezers shut. If you don't open them, they'll stay cold longer. They also state that fridge food is no good after 4 hours of a power outage, but that freezer food is good for 48 hours. But think about what's going on. Is this a winter storm? Or has there been a nuclear attack? Now, is it cool or cold outside? Can you build an outdoor fridge or freezer? Again, having a radio that functions might clue you in as to how long this blackout is likely to be or how widespread it is. The grade for this I'm giving an F. This is a fail grade. They mention the fact that during blizzards most people die driving around on the roads. The same is true in blackouts. The same is also true of house fires in blackouts and also carbon monoxide poisoning in blackouts. Installing a whole house surge protection is probably overkill and isn't really going to do a lot for you. Just unplug everything. Number 5 is tornadoes. This entire section should not apply to many areas. Sadly, human-caused climate change makes this extremely rare event in Canada much more common. They tell you it's likely to happen in the spring, summer and early evening. Also a useful tip, especially if you're out there hiking. If it happens, hide behind solid walls and roofs. Avoid grocery stores and gyms, anything with those long, flat industrial roofs. They state that banks and hospitals are good. I have a friend who RVs in my local area and she regularly rushes with her cats to a concrete laundrette where she's RVing. Not mentioned is a cell phone that picks up alerts. That said, look outside if it gets dark. We've had tornadoes hit near us before we got the warning. As with anything, act and train. For example, plot all of your food in pounds or in calories, it doesn't matter what.
Multiple weather alerts.
213, torrential downpours, 5 centimetres falling within an hour.
So it's a little bit further south.
We're on the south side of it.
It's getting darker.
Yeah. I've just had my second tornado warning. I've actually put the shoes in the kitchen and Kitty's down there and we'll grab the dog and hang out in the kitchen if we in fact have a tornado hit. Pretty dramatic out there, but at the moment it's on this side of us. Well, as forecast, we're having a torrential storm. We are actually under a tornado warning. It got very dark. We're supposed to get possibly 5 centimetres or 2 inches of rain in the next hour. At least the car's getting clean. Now you want to use the lowest room with no windows and stay in there after it hits until you're sure it won't hit again or a wall might fall. If you're driving, pull out of traffic, keep the seatbelt on and use cushions or blankets between you and the windows. One thing I found interesting was their expert says never ever to use a ditch as they fill up with heavy debris after any tornadoes. Didn't really know that and I always thought you had to hide in the ditch. But their expert says absolutely not. Never ever use a ditch. Tornado? I'll give this a B. Number 6 is floods. Now this is the third reprint, so the claimed floods are mainly an issue for coastal states in the Mississippi River Valley in 2025. Seems a bit optimistic given recent events. They do actively promote sump pumps for your basements for minor floods, but they fail to point out they actually need electricity. So I suggest a one-way valve if your home is not on top of a hill or not connected to a large sewer system. I find this advice so wrong. Quote, the best advice is to move your valuables to a high floor, then evacuate. Floods move fast, ... If flooding is likely, sure, move the stuff upstairs, but if flooding is very likely, get out of there. They say to avoid moving water, quote, turn around, don't drown. 50% of drownings in floods are people in cars. They nailed this one. They say plan escape routes. Absolutely correct. They're absolutely right about planning escape routes if you live in a flood zone. Remember, everywhere is now a flood zone. They say to use certain types of maps for this, and I kind of sort of agree, but use general maps and then drive around looking for choke points and areas that confuse you if the power is out and it's the middle of the night and it's pouring with rain. Consider foot routes if the car fails. This sounds like work, but it's a few hours every few years because you'll have to update it. Oh, and I also strongly suggest having rope and life jackets to put in the car if you're evacuating from a flood. The fun fact with this is 6 inches of water can knock you down and 2 feet of moving water can sweep away your vehicle. Absolutely true. In fact, less than 6 inches can do that if you're not very strong or you get hit by something in the water. Floods I give a C to. Earthquake. While stating the risk is to California and the Midwest, I'd point out that parts of Eastern Americas are also at risk. The best advice is to relocate out of an earthquake-prone zone and live and work somewhere less likely to experience a catastrophic quake. That is not popular mechanics advice. So if you stay, get a modern, not an old home. Secure major appliances and bookshelves to walls. Install flexible gas and water liners. Evacuate if you smell gas and don't go near any downed power lines. Not mentioned here, and I'm surprised, have a 72-hour kit. Have good strong shoes and gloves near all beds. Have rescue tools and helmets in the home to dig yourself out. Overall, I'd not live in LA. They do say to be aware of activity even though it's unpredictable by modern science. They do not mention tsunami risks. They do say keep flashlights and extra batteries in all rooms. I say read up on a local national government websites and get really strongly prepared if you live in an earthquake zone. The basic 72-hour kit and basic things to do: you need to be able to get up at 4 in the morning, slightly hungover, evacuate the house inside of 3-4 minutes and get up to high ground. And by high ground I mean 100 meters or higher. Can you do that? It's asking a lot. That's why I suggest relocating. Earthquake advice, I give it a C+. Number 8 is hurricanes. Like I said, think about heat waves as well as ice storms, especially if you're in areas not used to either of those events. Generally speaking, areas that get a lot of hurricanes are usually pretty well prepared for them. It's when the hurricanes move inland or hit further up the coast, that's when a lot of deaths and damage happens, because people aren't really prepared for it. They state that 6 to 8 hurricanes per year between June the 1st and November the 30th. They also say September is the cruelest month. They say eastern and southern coastal states get hit the most. Bear in mind, Hurricane Hazel in Toronto in the 50s killed a lot of people. So a lot of preparation for individual threats is actually preparation for all threats, not just the 8 mentioned. Their experts say have trigger points and act on them. Do not evacuate too late. Cover windows, move valuables upstairs, etc. Treat this like a mega flood and windstorm. You should also treat it like a blackout. They tell you to evacuate early and plan routes before June 1st, not the morning of the evacuation. Tip 2 is to keep track of storm movements. This is a really good idea. So yeah, follow the storm movements, but be aware of the fact that behaviour is odd these days and getting odder with human-caused climate change, and rainfall and storm surges can hit well outside the quote danger area. Great for the hurricane, I give it a D. There's a lot more to this than meets the eye. For example, if faced with floods or hurricanes, one of the things you should have made sure is that you and everybody in your family are good swimmers and have access to life jackets in the home. All your cars need to have emergency kits in. I'm not talking about little tiny survival packs, I'm talking about big chunky things, and I'll show you what I mean. Now, I've shown this before. This is my car kit, my car emergency kits. We can carry stuff, we can cook stuff, we can stay warm, we can stay fed, we can stay hydrated for about 2 weeks. This is not everything in the car, just the portable part. Next video will be before it happens. Get ready and have smart disaster planning. This section promises to help me thrive, not just survive, in the aftermath of any disaster. Really? In a very few pages? Well, I do try, as you know, not to be cynical, but I personally feel thriving after a major catastrophic disaster is very unlikely. You'll need to adapt as well as you can and keep adapting for a long period of time. Not dying, not getting injured, and helping others should be your 3 priorities. Sitting in a bunker eating expired spam isn't really a healthy life goal. If you disagree with me on this, please say so in the comments. I really don't think this magazine is actually doing what it's telling me it's going to do. And it's cost me 20 Canadian dollars to buy this before tariffs. But anyhow, thanks for watching. Take it easy, be prepared.
I don't believe in the ability to overcome fear. It's the ability to control it.
Sanely.
It's about testing character by putting them under pressure and stress.
Prep for sane and sensible things that are actually real. Outside of the cities, people know that Mother Nature will kill you like that and not blink. Get prepared, take it easy, enjoy your life. Toodles. This video has been brought to you by a Tornado Prone Terrier Production 2024.